a minute after.
I had a couple of things on there. I know. Well, they don't talk about
Well, I'm ready whenever you guys are.
All right. I'd like to call this meeting of the Boothbaay Selectmen to order. First on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So next on the agenda is the public hearing, warrant article number 2, to vote by secret ballot on the following plan question. Shall a plan entitled the Boothbaay Comprehensive Plan dated August 3rd, 2015 be enacted? So now we're into public comment.
We do have a PowerPoint presentation by Mark Ironman, the planner that we had hired to come in and work as a consultant.
Okay.
He was nice enough to put this together, if that's all right with everyone in the audience. Just to kind of discuss, give you an overview of the what's and the whys. Okay. Also, I would ask anyone that would like to speak tonight, if you could just speak into the microphone, that way it'll come across on our stream, and it'll also, when we give John the disc, the public will be able to hear what you have to say, and that's obviously what we're here for tonight. So,
my name's Mark Ironman from Planning Decisions. We are consultants to the town on this project, and I will try and be sort of sweet, short, and to the point, and provide you with an overview. Excuse me. I did give everybody a copy of the presentation, so you have it, just in case things sometimes don't work right. I'm going to go really quickly, and then we can come back and talk about things if we need to. This is my clicker over here, so I'm going to point it in
rested and
and
ready,
do
Mark.
it. The comprehensive plan is really a guidance document. It's not an ordinance. It really is a guide for the town, the Board of Selectmen, community boards, making decisions in the future, decisions about funding improvements, activities, town programs, ordinances, community activities. And that role of being a guide changes a little bit when we get to the land use part of the plan, and that's an important distinction in that the state law says that your land use ordinance has to be consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. So technically, your current comprehensive plan that's been on the books for years, your land use ordinance is supposed to be consistent with that. So that's really the role of the comprehensive plan. Members of the committee are here. They have slogged through this process for going on 3 years now. What you see in the plan is really rooted in the values identified in the community vision. It's in Chapter 4. And there was a fairly large amount of public input at the beginning of the process, at various points in the process, and then toward the end, a lot of work with the planning board members to really fine-tune the proposals. The vision, as I said, really involved out of a forum that was held in the upstairs meeting room of the fire department in, I believe, July, when it was about 93 degrees outside and about 110 degrees inside. And people really looked to think about what did they want Boothbaay to be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years in the future. The committee got a lot of input on some ideas that they had developed, went back and substantially reworked that. And as I said, the committee held 3 public forums, a formal public hearing, and spent, I think, 5 or 6 meetings in total with the planning board going through and really reviewing everything, fine-tuning everything. So there's been quite a bit of sort of reiteration of what's there to respond to various forms of public input. The plan is really divided into three major parts. The first part of the plan, Section A, is really background information. It provides sort of a snapshot of the old comprehensive plan, some of the other plans that have been done, the corridor studies, to just sort of set a context for what's there. It includes snapshot of how development has occurred in the community since 2000, where, how much, to understand sort of what's been going on. And it includes a summary of the various inventories, local economy, natural resources, transportation, water and sewer systems, that are all, the details are in the appendix. Section B really is the guts of the plan. It's the vision, it's the objectives and actions, and it's the land use plan, and I'll come back and talk about those. And then the third piece is Section C, implementation strategy, looks at the regional relationships, and I don't have to say it, but you know, this is a peninsula, and everything that happens on the peninsula is interrelated, both to the four communities on the peninsula as well as the Route 1 communities. It addresses that. There's lots of other information in the appendices. Some of it is current, some of it is a little dated. As we went through this process over 3 years, time marched on. At the end, we updated the most critical pieces of it, but some of it is information from 2012 or 2013. And it really covers all of the facets of the community. The population, how it's changing. Boothbaay has been growing. It's been getting older, as I think everybody's aware. There's information about the local economy, how the land in the community is currently being used, natural resources, marine resources, a lot of information about transportation, historic, housing, recreation, open space sorts of things that the town's involved in, and a number of other areas that you can go look at in the table of contents if you're interested. Chapter 4 sets out sort of the long-range goal for what the committee thought the community was telling them Boothbaay wants to move toward as we think about the community 10, 20 years in the future. And in there, it establishes a number of the key principles that come back about diversity of the population, growing the economy, treating businesses, providing for a variety of types of transportation. A lot of the pieces that you see reflected in the plan in actions and objectives really tie back into the vision. Chapter 5 is community objectives and actions. It looks at all of those topics that I listed and says, what should the community be trying to do in those areas? What it should be doing about housing affordability, what should it be doing about growing the economy, what should it be doing about recreation, open space, transportation. And it's in there, and I'm not going to go through them all tonight. I'm just going to touch on a couple of key ones that are in there. Big issue identified early in the process was the issue of home occupations and some recommendations for trying to clean up the issue of how to deal with different kinds of home occupations. I think as everybody's been aware, I think maybe 2 of the last 3 town meetings have had warrant articles about something to do about home occupations, if I remember correctly. Ideas of really supporting 21st century tourism. Tourism is changing, what people are looking for is changing, upgrading pedestrian bicycle facilities, that's an issue. Increasing the supply of affordable housing in the community is addressed, and there are some proposals. Develop a comprehensive open space plan. There was a lot of discussion in the committee and with the public about whether the town's policy should be to try and preserve more open space or not. And the committee really felt that the community and the town meeting didn't really have enough information, and they really needed to step back and look at that question and say, what are the land trusts doing? What is the state doing? What are other private people like the Botanical Garden doing to preserve open space? And to think about that sort of holistically to guide what the town's role in that should be doing. So rather than making proposals, it says, let's step back and think about that question in more detail. Big issue in the entire discussion was the issue of increasing the protection of water, both the public water supply, Adams Pond, Knickerbocker Lakes, for the public water supply, and the groundwater resource that many people in the community rely on either year-round or if they're here in the winter and have seasonal public water, rely on. And so there's a lot of focus on activities in conjunction with the water district to look at ways to enhance the protection of Adams Pond and Knickerbocker Lake, and also some proposals relative to protecting the quality and the quantity of the groundwater resource. And that was another area where the committee felt that it really didn't have enough good, solid information to make permanent proposals for what should be done. So the plan really proposes some interim steps and undertaking, particularly in the critical areas, some of the coastal areas, looking at what the groundwater situation actually is, what additional development can be supported in those areas before the town makes any permanent, takes any permanent action in those areas. Dan? Accessibility to the Boothbaay Peninsula, I put that in there. There's a number of recommendations relative to Wiscasset, the Route 27 corridor, a variety of things that have been talked about over the years in terms of improving accessibility, increasing the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists, and providing for some improved facilities, shoulders, what have you. And I'm going to call it a nod toward the historic properties in the community. There are only a handful at this point of National Register properties. There's a sense that there are other properties in the community, but it really stops short in the plan of making any proposals for regulatory protection of historic properties. It's more being aware of what's there, and if development proposals occur that involve historic properties, to have a way to take that into account when they're reviewed and approved. Complete a scenic inventory. This is an issue that I would say sort of grew in importance. I think, as everybody is aware, at least in the committee and the Board of Selectmen, that the town is in the process of trying to update its regulations dealing with wireless communication facilities. And one of the key issues in that is, how does it impact what people see, what they think is important in the community? And so there's a suggestion that the town continue to work on the issue of identifying what's important. So as those kind of regulations are updated, it's based on information, maintaining, improving access to coastal waters, both for recreational use and also for commercial fishing use. And a lot of discussion in the committee, not a lot in the plan, about how the town interfaces with the school district, and some recommendations about how the town as a community, little t rather than capital T, is more involved with the school district and the decisions that are being made there. So that's really the summary of Chapter 5. Chapter 6 is the future land use plan. It really is sort of a generalized zoning format. It establishes the basic land use, the basis for land use ordinance. If the plan's adopted, the town's going to have to go through a process of making some revisions to the land use ordinance. I think that's what started this whole process back 3 years or so ago, because if you've ever had to deal with the current ordinance and tried to figure out what you can do in certain areas, it is not an easy thing to do. And I think one of the goals of this process is to create a comprehensive plan that can then be adopted by the town and used as a basis for going back and reformatting, reorganizing, updating the land use ordinance and try and make it understandable, more usable for everybody. In the plan, and I just stuck this in here, I think somewhere we have a larger version of it, is the land use plan that's included. And we can come back and talk about specific things if there are questions or we want to. Some of the key concepts, though, that are in there is really trying to make better use of the area where we are, the beginning going up 27, where public sewer, public water are available. And there is, the town owns capacity, I imagine everyone is aware of that, in the Boothbaay sewer system, Boothbaay Harbor sewer system. And there is the potential for doing some more accommodating different forms of development in the village, in the area going up Country Club Hill. There's discussion about the Route 27 corridor, trying to maintain that as a commercial area, but improving sort of the traffic functioning of it, some of the appearance of it as redevelopment or reuse occurs, maintaining the scenic gateways, really the northern end of the corridor as you go to Edgecombe, the Edgecombe line on Route 27, but also the piece between the Boothbaay Harbor line and the edge of East Boothbaay Village, where you go through the rock cuts, and it's really a pretty scenic area to really maintain the quality of those. The plan proposes expanding the industrial area further back up on the ridge. Some of that was done a year ago or so, but there's some little more added to that. Was a lot of discussion about East Boothbaay Village, and there's a proposal to really create a new East Boothbaay Village district that really recognizes that as sort of the, if you will, a marine village community, and allows some things to happen in there, including some limited growth of the marine commercial area, so the shipyard can expand if it needs to, provide additional parking, and also some of the smaller marine operations can have some flexibility to do some things. The plan talks about the coastal residential area, the 250-foot strip along the shore, and being careful what happens in that area. That area is subject to shoreland zoning as it is, but really watching how development in that area where it can occur, how it occurs. and then a mix of uses in the rural area. I think on the previous map, they're the pink areas. And also creating some opportunities for smaller lots to maybe allow some affordable rural housing. Currently, the town requires 40,000, 60,000 square foot lot. The plan talks about the possibility of looking at lots smaller than 40,000 square feet in some of those interior areas away from the coast. There also is, at the end of Chapter 6, a collection of issues that don't really fit well anywhere else, a nod to the fact that the state has a manufactured housing law that the town has to be in compliance with, and if you don't say that, the state gets upset with you, so that's in there. Some ideas for improving the review of development proposals that come through, provisions for protecting existing non-residential uses. There are some uses that are made non-conforming now. Depending upon how things get reorganized, there could be some other businesses that became non-conforming, if you will, but the idea is to really allow what's there to be allowed to continue, and not penalize them as they would be in other situations, to provide buffering for residential uses when there's commercial development next to them, and updating the rules for wireless communication facilities are in there. Third section is implementation. As I said earlier, Chapter 7 really looks at the interrelationship with Edgecombe, Boothbaay Harbor, Southport. Chapter 8, in some ways, I think is maybe the most important part of the plan, is it takes each one of the actions from Chapter 5 and Chapter 6, and it really says who should be responsible for doing it, what are the priorities in terms of time frame, and it really kind of lays out a roadmap for tackling the things that are in there. And I think that's the end. Is that the end? Yep. So that's sort of the quick look at what's there, and if we want to talk about specific things that are in the plan, people have questions, we'll try and answer them.
I guess, just real briefly, first I'd like to thank people that have sat on the Comprehensive Planning Committee for almost 3 years and has put together what I consider a very nice document when it's all said and done. But that's just a side note. You guys have any questions? Have we heard, I personally have heard no chatter in the community really at all about this document whatsoever, good or bad.
The only comments that I've heard have been throughout the process, and they seem to be fairly happy with the results after attending one of your open meetings, so.
My own personal question is, with some of these ones that we've kind of left open-ended because you didn't feel there was enough information or decision, enough information to make a solid decision or to make it a permanent in this document, if that information kind of becomes available over time, can you amend your comprehensive plan?
And I think the simple answer to that is yes.
Well,
It's a working document just like anything else.
Yes, and Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would even go so far as to say, not only can you should.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I think many communities view, okay, we do the comprehensive plan, we adopt it, that's the end of the process.
Right.
I would really encourage you to think of it as the beginning of the process, if you really will, and things are going to change. New information is going to become available. Somebody's going to come along with a great proposal to do something that none of us envisioned when this process was going on.
Yep.
Somebody's going to buy land, and you can and should look at it on a regular basis and say, are there things in here that we should be updating? And it has to go through town meeting to be done, but it can be a fairly simple process to do amendments.
This isn't a document that should sit on a shelf and gather dust. This should be something that, as Mark said, should be amended from time to time as different situations arise, just as our zoning ordinance will be amended basically on a yearly basis, and has been for years.
Sounds like it's gonna have to be amended, I would assume, fairly substantially now that we have a new comprehensive, well, we will have a new comprehensive plan.
Once this is passed in November, and the state law gives us 2 years to have the new zoning ordinance implemented from the time this is voted in.
Is there public comment? Sorry.
My name's Ron Ross. I live up on the River Road. Unfortunately, there was a miscommunication, and I missed the dates to have open comment, to say something at an earlier time, and I realized that my comments tonight are way too late. But still, I thought, you know, it was a good chance just to say them, and maybe that would make me feel better anyway.
Absolutely.
I commend the committee. There is so much in this that I think is so great and so important for the town. But there's one piece of it that really bothers me, and based on that piece, I feel compelled to vote against the proposal at the warrant. And that's the rezoning of a residential area into a mixed-use area. 5 years ago, we bought the property up on the River Road, and we understood, you know, Dave Stinson had a little, you know, boatyard there, and that was fine. You know, we didn't object, you know, we stayed quiet through all of that. But now I'm faced with the situation, well, you know, the field's across the street from me and my neighbors or whatever, you know, instead of it being residential, it could be, as I read in the document, an auto repair shop, or, you know, it's the character of the very environment that I bought in stands to change. And that's very unsettling, extremely so. Were it mixed-use development 5 years ago when we were looking to buy, I might not have bought that property. You know, I bought it understanding what was around me at the time and what I thought the future would hold. And I know there's no guarantees. Right. The other piece, too, is that I did just a quick little poll of the people I know around me, and I don't know that many of them. And although there have been, you know, public hearings, most of the people that are going to be affected by this don't know about this. And it's going to come as quite a shock to North Boothbaay when they realize that their residential zoning is going to change. So, I mean, I know. Yeah, there were plenty of opportunities, and I don't know if it was in the paper, but I think it might have been good had, you know, like the major things that are going to be impacted like this, if they were listed out, and maybe they were in the paper and I missed it. But I'm surprised and disappointed because, boy, I'd like to get behind all the things that I find so exciting and so good in this proposal, but I won't be able to.
Can I ask you a few questions, sir?
Sure.
Have you looked at our current zoning ordinance?
No, not particularly.
And the reason I ask that is we did have a gentleman who came to one of our meetings, and I'm Chuck Cunningham, I was co-chair with Nell of the Comprehensive Planning Committee, who expressed some of the same concerns that you are now. But when you bring up the current zoning ordinance, a lot of what he was worried about moving into his neighborhood is currently allowed, even though it's called residential. It is currently a mixed-use zone. Residential doesn't mean that all you can have is residential housing.
You can
there
have,
are commercial
you can have
activities.
or your home businesses.
There are also commercial activities that are allowed in
Oh, there are?
residential areas.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
that's why I asked if you happen to take a look
No, I
at.
wasn't aware of that.
Dan, any chance you can bring that one up?
Not sure if I have it
Well,
on.
I mean, I don't want to waste the committee's time.
You're not
because-
wasting our time at all. If you're asking the question, there may be others as well. And if Dan can bring it up, we can take a look at what's currently allowed in the residential area, and maybe that would allay some of your concerns.
I would have to go pull that and put it on the thumb drive, but I can do that
Yeah,
in just a
it-
couple of minutes.
Do you have a hard copy?
It might have been,
Oh, yes. Yep.
Why don't you grab the hard copy and we'll take a look at the,
When I stopped in to read the plan, when I came to find out about the dates. And unfortunately, when I came in, it was late in July. And when I asked when the open forums were, the response was, well, there are two dates, the 6th and the 22nd, or something like that. And being it was already July 17th, I thought we were talking about next month, the 6th and the 22nd. So I showed up on August 6th and had missed not only July 6th, but the 22nd as well. It was unfortunate, it's just something that happened. But,
So what you're
It's-
saying now is, it's just a renaming, but nothing any different.
essentially, once the planning board takes charge of reworking the zoning ordinance, they'll be the ones that have the final say on what activities are and aren't allowed in specific zones.
and if I read it correctly, I was pleased to see in this area that, they were going to, not look favorably on big housing developments because they're trying to keep it a rural area. And I thought that was good. And I understand there's no retail and no restaurants, and that's good. But then the examples that were used about, but it would be suitable for automobile repair, boat repair, that I understand. Storage, I mean, I have visions of, the big field across the street with, sort of storage units on it. And, in reading it, as I read it, it was just,
But the good thing is, as he said at the beginning of this is a guide, it is nowhere near a zoning ordinance. When the planning board starts taking all this up, that's when they're gonna make the decision. They don't have to go by this word for word. If they decide that a garage isn't a good fit for the River Road area, they can choose to do that. This is just a guide, it's not set in stone, so that's when you need to come out.
oh, and I would, believe me.
Basically, I guess the way I'd explain it is, the comprehensive plan is basically your roadmap.
Right.
And the zoning ordinance are gonna put the speed limits in that roadmap.
Right, but it just seems as though it's gotten new pavement in terms of opening it for more mixed use.
Dan just gave me the land use table for what's currently residential areas. And right now, accessory apartments, multifamily dwellings, one-family dwellings, two-family dwellings, lodging homes, retirement facilities. But you can also have agriculture and farming.
Right.
Animal breeding or care, aquaculture, bed and breakfast, campground, commercial fishing activities, conference centers, daycare center, essential services, farm stand, home occupation, both homemaker and office, and other, hotel, motel, kennels, kiosks, laundromats, maritime activities, mobile home parks, neighborhood stores, offices, business and professional, indoor recreational facilities, outdoor recreational facilities, restaurants, service businesses, small engine repair and sales, veterinary hospitals, cemeteries,
Well,
churches, community centers, congregate housing, educational facilities, museums, parks and recreation, public facilities, and then under miscellaneous, clearing of vegetation, forest management activities, individual private campsites, signs, timber harvesting, and wind turbines.
okay, but that stands in opposition to the planning committee's position that it just took when there was an applicant who wanted to do a retail store in a residential section. So there it says it's okay, but the planning board said, no, it's not.
Well,
So
there are
if
different
you're- if-
criteria for everything that I
Okay.
just read off.
So-
That could have also been special, that's general, which is where, I believe you're.
Right, River Road is general residential
And
compared
it could have been
to
special.
residential.
Which there are some differences there,
Okay.
but they have more to do with,
Right.
and I think Nell actually
Yeah.
was the one that enlightened me on this, but it has more to do with your use of water. in
Right,
the area,
okay.
not
Yeah.
necessarily
And,
the
and,
destination.
thank you for that, because
You're welcome.
I didn't know. I didn't. I didn't hear manufacturing in that list, which is one of the things that would now be, permitted. And when we were looking to buy, we were also looking over on Pemaquid Peninsula, And there was a house there we liked a lot, but one of the reasons I wasn't so in favor of it was because just, 500 feet down the road was a manufacturing, building with, the traffic and, the things that are involved with, living next to a manufacturing facility. So, thank you for hearing me. I realize it's too late, but I'm a little comforted to know that, it's maybe not as big a change as I'm thinking it might be.
It's never too late to speak, even when the comprehensive plan is passed in November, then the planning board is going to have 2 years to rework the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
And I know there's one member here tonight that I'm sure she's hearing your comments, and if you went to the planning board meetings when they're working on the rework of the zoning ordinance, I'm sure they'd be
That's
very
where the
willing
rubber
to hear
hits
you
the
as well.
road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Any more public comment?
I have a question.
Sure.
What are the biggest changes in this new comprehensive plan from the old one? Well, how's it going to impact lives, basically?
I'm gonna defer to Chuck.
It's an updating of the outdated information in the old comprehensive plan. The old comprehensive plan was adopted in 1989. So there have been a lot of changes in Boothbaay in the last, is that 26 years?
26 years ago.
So it was definitely time to have it updated. And it's bringing us to today and looking forward to hopefully the next 10 to 20 years on what we want to see for change.
Give me some examples of what you can do or what you can't do.
That's all going to be worked out in the zoning ordinance.
Right, this isn't a can and can't, this is just a guide.
This is just the map. Guys, you want to weigh in on? Mark?
You want me to take a stab?
Go ahead.
If I had to say what were the biggest changes from the current situation, I would say in the village area going up Route 27 as far as the pump station up by the storage lockers, Country Club Hill where public sewer is available. The plan recognizes now that public sewer is available and you can do things with public sewer more things than you can do on septic. Currently, the rules treat everything the same, whether you're on septic, whether you're on sewer. So I think that's a significant change. I think the treatment of East Boothbaay Village and sort of taking that out of some of the residential districts and putting it into a village district that allows, I guess I would call it, more recognition of the way that village developed, what the pattern of development is, and allowing some more flexibility in the way buildings can be used there. It also includes the possibility for the expanding of the marine district with the shipyard a little bit to allow them for some growth. So I think sort of the whole way that East Boothbaay is looked at. Third, I think the idea of the scenic corridors, and really not changing what you can do in the, I'm going to call it the upper end of Route 27 and the piece of 96, but more how you can do it so that, let's be honest, when you come down the peninsula and you cross the border into Boothbaay, it's lovely. You come through, you've got the open field on the right-hand side that used to be the campground years ago. You've got the land trust property on the left-hand side. There's been some properties that have been developed in there that are very attractive, work well. And so I think one of the things is really saying that entrance into Boothbaay Village and the entrance into East Boothbaay are very important in terms of the character, the feel of the community, and maintaining that as development occurs is important. So I think those are three of the key things.
Thank you.
Chuck, you agree?
I do agree.
Any further public comment?
If I can, I would like to thank everybody on the Comprehensive Planning Committee for all of their hard work the past 3 years, the hours that they put in to get this product to where it is today so that the voters can vote on it in November. Took a little longer than we expected, but I have to say, I think we have a really good plan for the voters, and I'm hoping that they'll pass it come November. Mark, thank you for all of your hard work. I appreciate the direction and keeping us on track, putting up with the sometimes very animated discussions amongst committee members, but I appreciate everything that you did. Chuck?
I'd also like to urge people that may have an objection with a small, as they're voting on this up or down, if you have an objection to a small part of it, don't throw out the whole plan because of one little thing, because there's a lot of good in it, and there's no way we were going to make everybody happy.
Right.
Everybody's going to be unhappy with something. So look at the whole picture.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
We moving forward? Should I wait for Dan to get back?
No, we can approve the minutes and stuff.
All right. Well, actually, oh, that was, never mind. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of 9/23/2015.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here.
Same here. I wasn't here either.
These two are both, Steve and Steve are abstaining.
Yeah, no. Would you say it was a Steve-less meeting?
It was a Steve. It was Steveless. All those in favor? So moved.
There's your quote of the night, Bill. Always complete.
Yep. Now I'm gonna dead in the water. Report, Steve?
I can't help you. Beautiful day out.
It won't be this weekend when it's 30.
We're gonna get a cool week coming up.
You had to know we were on borrowed time. It's middle of October and it's 70 degrees out. That's not going to stay
That's
there.
gonna be the low.
I will take
It's gonna
it
get up in the high 40s.
if I can.
Yes.
I only got 3 cottages.
Night, Jackson.
I'll get them all done Friday. Thanks for coming, guys.
Huh? Oh, well, that's your call.
Two.
I should do my courtesy public. Water will be off at about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Oh, yeah, and the refuse district hours go back to 4 o'clock starting Friday. So we
Really?
get all the, we can get everything.
That's not what I wanted to hear.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, it's not that. It's, I use my own, sorry, John. I used company dumpster this afternoon at 4:45 because I thought it was already switched over.
Ah.
I wonder if Dan knows we're waiting on him for
Probably not.
reports. Hey, Dan!
I was just explaining that, you know, with this process, they didn't necessarily know that those things were allowed in their area, but I just wanted to let them know that we also have impact standards that are integrated into the ordinance as well, so it's not like, you know, somebody can throw a
Right, just
store
because-
right on your property line, and so I just said, you know, if you want to come back in, I can walk over that with you and help to allay any concerns you have.
I understand entirely.
So,
We're waiting on you for reports.
okay.
Reports, Dan?
We are, I think it's the 15th, which is tomorrow, we start with dog licenses. So anyone out there with your dogs, be prepared. Other than that, we're starting to see the foot traffic kind of wind down a little bit in the business side of the office. Of course, that'll ramp back up fairly soon. On the public works, we're down to day-to-day. We did secure the bid from MCOG for salt and for plow blades. I think we got a pretty good price. It looks like it's at or maybe just a little bit over what we paid last year, which is a pretty good thing. And I think Mike's in the process right now of trying to get a good price on the sand. At code enforcement, we have 3 building permits, 3 septics, and 2 plumbing permits, and there are 2 items on the agenda for the planning board this month. Other than that, we're business as usual.
Got some questions for you.
Okay.
The changes out here on 27 for the turning lane. I've had some folks talk to me about it, and when I came through tonight with the new painting, seems a little tight.
Yep.
Any chance that you can have somebody from DOT come down and take a look at that? I'm a little worried with somebody in the turning lane and cars going through on both sides, and not only a tractor trailer trying to get through there, but a rescue vehicle trying to get through there. And I hate to say it, but it almost appears like it's going to be more of a cluster now with that turning lane than it was before.
I think DOT was right out there when they were doing it.
Yeah, that was, but
It's a DOT-approved plan.
Exactly.
Yes.
yeah. But, because I've also heard from some folks, and what I said is, and this is what I planned on doing, is I'll find out who the lead person is in the DOT, and I'll at least try to get some type of description of what, the parameters are that they expect, and then, if nothing else, I can go out and take a look at it and just see, did we actually meet those parameters?
Right.
What scares me is that coming around that corner, it all of a sudden narrows now. And that scares me for a while, with people getting used to that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, something I'd like to see out there, and I mentioned it to Dan before the meeting, I mentioned it to Dale as well. In Woolwich, when they did all those change in traffic patterns, there's signs up there that say, change in traffic pattern ahead.
To give
They
you,
need to have those out here.
Because that right there is gonna be dangerous, because it narrows
Yeah.
where it didn't before.
I was also kind of accosted by several different people about the timing of when this was all going on. Columbus Day weekend, did we have any say over it?
I know right now, traffic was backed up.
Yeah, I mean, backups were pretty epic, standstills were pretty epic.
Last Thursday, I was stopped at Hammond Lumber.
Yeah. Yeah, I was probably right in front of you in Hackmatack.
We don't have any, I mean, we had no control over that. It's not a,
And that's what I've shared with everybody. That is that's a state of Maine road that has nothing to do with us. I don't,
If we were partially funding or fully funding it, yes, we would have some
we
input.
could have some say, but the way it stands right now, it's pretty much, it's the state. So,
But I'll follow up on that, and I'll definitely follow up on the signs. I'll try to follow up on the lead person, and again, just try to ensure that whatever criteria is in place for the DOT, that it was followed through on this project.
Something else I'd like to see you follow up on, Dan, if you would. We need to have a little bit more notice than reading it in the paper the Thursday before. I mean, this office should have at least known about it so that they could have got the word out.
I agree. And I would think, honestly, I would think there'd be some notification. I think I had to, in order to do a 2-day shutdown on Southport, I had to give them at least a week's notice. So we had to have a week's notice prior to shutting down, I believe,
Prior to.
which obviously I don't think we got.
And I'll have to follow the food chain on that one.
I understand.
Yeah.
I got a few numbers in my phone you can have, but I ain't saying them here on TV.
But yes, I'll absolutely follow up on that. I think I can find at least the lead person on this pretty easily. But I doubt that's gonna be the person I wanna talk to.
Just
talk
take a
about
walk out there in the middle of the street tomorrow morning and grab a hold of somebody and say, who's the boss?
that. Yeah, that's right. Who's calling the shots? Yep, I'll absolutely follow up on that. I'll reach out tomorrow. I don't know if I'll have answers tomorrow, but I'll reach out tomorrow.
Since we're on the whole thing of state roads, I continuously get accosted by the mess in front of Martin Pages on 96 too. So if we're gonna have a conversation with the state, we ought to talk to them about that.
And I have actually called in about that.
I know.
Yeah.
We have to, I have to.
Yeah,
There's gonna be a heavy vehicle, like a school bus, drop down into that at some point.
Yeah.
It's gonna give out.
They gotta put an under drain in, and they won't do it.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
it's obvious it's
They,
tunnel.
they need an under drain, they won't do it.
yeah, that's,
Yeah, needs French drain.
Yeah,
nobody will say that, but that's what it comes down to.
I know.
Okay, so, on to old business. We agree? Okay. So, here's a mouthful.
You can guess where this came from.
Yes, I can.
Not Sally.
Authorizing the execution of the deed and other closing documents related to the town's sale of PGC 5 LLC in two certain lots or parcels of land as follows. One, property located at 1033 Wiscasset Road and being approximately .5 acres in size as described in the deed dated September 16, 2008, and recorded in the Lincoln County Registry of Deeds in Book 4051, page 235. And two, property located, or property two, being located at Corey Lane and being approximately .53 acres in size as described in the deed dated December 12, 2008, and recorded in said Registry of Deeds in Book 4081, page 21.
And so Sally's suggestion was, and you have before you the quitclaim deed,
Okay?
that you sign that and then you make a motion if you think it's beneficial to authorize me to sign any of the extraneous paperwork that comes along with it.
Along with it.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, I made it.
Any further discussion?
It's just legal.
I know.
We're getting paid $275,000. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? So moved.
That's to authorize Dan to sign any related documents to the,
To the sale of those two parcels of land.
It's also authorizing us to sign the quitclaim deed.
Correct. It's all in one.
That you folks voted last meeting to sell.
Yeah.
It's an all-inclusive paragraph right there.
Do you have the check, Dan?
I don't have the check. I suspect it comes when this goes to Sally.
So Chuck, I've got a procedural question for you, and you've been on here long enough, so you might be able to answer it. Steve and I wasn't present to vote to sell to him.
Mm-hmm.
Is it still appropriate for us to sell the quitclaim deed? I think we'd have to, wouldn't we?
Sign it. No way.
Yeah, it'd be appropriate for you guys to sign the quitclaim deed, because
Yeah,
you
that's-
just made the motion to
Well,
authorize
after
the
that,
board
yeah,
to
right,
execute
okay.
it.
After
So-
that, I wondered if we should, but, I mean, that's a completely separate issue,
Yeah.
so.
No, you're looking at two separate things here. I mean,
Right.
the board, in your absence and Steve Ham's absence, opened up the one bid, and,
And we're still a board.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And it was a
Board
unanimous.
Well, no, I agree. I mean, I just wanted to make sure procedurally we was doing it correct, that's all.
Yep.
Okay. New business. Looks pretty empty.
Yep, no new business. This was kind of amoebus for me. I didn't know exactly how long this was gonna take, and I figured I'd give it the benefit of the doubt and assume we were probably gonna go about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay.
So
We're
I
not
took a
doing-
couple items off.
Why don't you assume that for every meeting?
We like it when you're wrong.
So does anybody have anything to add to new business while we're on the
No,
topic?
just a question, I guess. It must be coming towards budget putting together.
Correct.
Lucky you.
Thank you, yes. Yep, I actually have already kind of started the preliminary portion of it. I'll be pulling and creating an Excel file. I don't think it'll be for the next meeting, because I suspect that's when the auditors will come. That'd be a fun meeting, budget and auditors all at the same time. But I do suspect it will be coming pretty close, because one of the things I'm gonna do is sit down with, with the staff and just talk about, we're going to go over kind of a 5-year plan needs, wants, wishes, and try to see where we fall by the time, actual numbers start to hit. So that process will start, well, that'll be towards the end of this month. Actually, also the ride around for the roads is going to happen, because that's something probably that should come up in the discussion at some point. Again, if we're entertaining a bond, I know we haven't said yes, no, but at least we should start to look at that with an eye to the future.
Be nice to have a plan.
So, yes, that is something that I am currently working forward with.
I just
Starting to
think
think that you're putting off the ride until most of the places are closed, so you don't have to buy us breakfast.
I'm just hoping that somehow Irving will come out with something that matches those pizza prices. Maybe I can. So, yes, yep.
All right. Complete with new business? All right, public comment. Pretty quiet out in the public tonight. I guess I will entertain a motion to review the warrants and sign them.
So move.
Second
All those in favor?
You check.
And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All those in favor?
one or the other.